it's Candace Craw-Goldman from quantumhealers.com, and I am here with two of my favorite people in the entire world, Donna McMurtry and her sister, Diana Adair. Hi, ladies!
Hi. Hi, Candace. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for chatting.
I know. Catch up.
I can't believe how much I miss you, and I miss everybody. I'm in this place where I am reaching out to so many people, and I'm like, I miss you, and I miss you, and I miss you, and I miss you. Had been so focused on what was going on with my dad, and then his recent final days, and now I'm coming up for air and trying to reconnect and get back to it. So I'm happy to connect with you today and see what's new and what's going on in the world where you are. So one of the reasons we got together today, we want to tell the people is one of the things that Donna and Diana and I are talking about are upcoming BQH events. And we are going to set the date and talk a little bit about the fact that we're going to have the immersion class next year. And we're not having it in spring. We're going to have it in June during the time when kids are off for school. That time frame's probably going to be better for everybody's schedule. So for right now, that's one of the things we want to talk about because we had to cancel this fall's immersion, didn't we?
Yeah. And I missed it a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
Me too. Me too. I really, really did. I love us getting together like that and sort of reconnecting in really deep ways, not just small catch up ways, but in really deep, profound ways where we learn and grow and experience these things together. And so we are looking forward to that. So I'm going to go ahead and announce those days right now for everybody who may have been wondering. It'll be in June, the first week in June, but it'll actually be the meet and greet will be the 31st of May, and then it'll head and take us to the 5th of June, and that is 2026, and that will be in Wichita, Kansas. So mark your calendars if you are BQH or if you want to be BQH, and you can become BQH before then, and then show up at our immersion class, which is a concentrated practice and review.
I'm so excited for that. And I have the feeling that a lot's going to happen between now and then to give us so much to talk about and explore by June, don't you think?
So much. And there's also already been so much happening. I mean, it felt like a big hole was in this year because we had to cancel class. And at the same time, the reason we had to cancel class is because everybody has so much going on in our own lives. You mentioned earlier, Candace, just how much of the focus keeps getting pulled back to 3D and what's in the physical. And this is what I have to look at and work with right now. And I feel like all of that's building toward exactly what you said of we know that things are moving into a different place, and a lot of us don't know what that is yet because we're so much in process. But that makes me feel even more so like that class is going to be even yet again a different class, which you always recreate it to a certain extent every time. But something about this one is already has this pull. I feel it like pulling me towards it.
It's huge, isn't it? And one of the things I'm finding myself thinking is, we were trying to have it this like we would just be finishing up, right? Didn't we say that it was right about this time frame we were trying to have it, and I already knew in May. I'm like, we can't do this. I knew Dad wasn't going to probably last another year. I'd thought or hoped he would make Christmas, but he didn't do that. And so it was a good call to sort of, but some of those people who signed up for this October, they're like, no problem, we will wait for the one in 2026. So isn't that interesting that already some of the people who are coming have moved into that next thing? And I think it's because we all have to get through something about this year.
Yes, that's such a good way to put it. There's something big that each one of us has to get through.
So you don't have to ask because, of course, people always talk about things like, the eclipse energies and the new moon and the full moon energies. And then there's this thing going on with the comet. And a lot of people are having a lot of things to say about that. And whether or not we know what it is or that we'll ever know what it is, something about the presence of this interstellar visitor, have it be a rock, a comet, or something more exotic, it's having us all talk about that. And I think that's a part of it. What are you all thinking about that?
And you're talking about Three Eye Atlas, right? Is what you're.
Am. I am indeed. But, a lot of people are talking about that because here, just in a little bit, I guess it comes close to Mars, and then it will go behind the sun, I guess, and depending on what it does behind the sun, seems to be significant. And then it'll make another appearance in the spring. But like one of the things that I watched, of course, you never know what how much is conjecture, and it's not just channelers, but we're talking like astrophysicists and scientists who are talking about this thing in really interesting, strange ways, that it's not behaving like a regular comet. And because of the government shutdown, we don't get to see the pictures that the satellites could be providing because there's this government shutdown. So those pixels can't be shared with us right now. And the really interesting thing is neither can any of the really great satellite images from any other country on the planet. They can't be shared either for some reason. I know, so what does that mean? I mean, I think that means something. Who knows what? But it means something.
Very curious. I think today is the day where it's closest to the sun
No, it's the 29th, I think.
of
Today's the
October.
21st, yeah.
Okay, so
Yep.
we're coming up to it.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
right around Halloween, right? That's
Yeah.
what you're right, Donna. Yeah, so
Uh-huh.
something about that. I guess a comet gets pulled into the energy of a regular comet, let's say, gets pulled into the energy of the sun. And this one is not behaving like a regular comet. And there are some people out there saying, and I'm not talking about, us woo woo spiritual people who delve in these other realms, but people who scientists, astrophysicists are talking about this idea if it changes its trajectory around the sun, if it uses the gravitational pull like a slingshot, well, that's what, supposedly spacefaring vehicles can do, because they have to basically steer to use the trajectory and like use it as a, it kind of, it'll use the gravity to have it fling you off into another direction like that. A piece of rock can't do that. Not typically, right? It has to be something with a steering mechanism. So what it does behind the sun seems to be important.
You know, what's been fascinating to me about this is it's really showing me how each of our perspectives are obviously individual and unique and take into account what our belief systems are, right? And what our imagination does with this sort of thing, but also how perspective is so important. Like I'll give you an example. Take the Great Pyramid, okay? If your perspective has only always been from straight up above it, the Great Pyramid is going to be only that perspective to you, a completely different thing than, say, if your perspective has only ever been from on the ground outside of it or inside of it. So as I'm hearing different people's perspectives and what they think it is and what they think it's about, and how that is their reality, and how that object, no matter what it is, takes on that reality for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, my reality of that object has been very interesting. When I first checked into it, do you guys want to hear?
Ah, this is one of the reasons I want to check in
Okay.
with so many BQH and other explorers, because I want to hear what you've been finding out about this. I try to kind of find out, and I haven't heard much back from people.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the very first time that I sort of tuned in, and was like, okay, what might this be, or show me something about this. It immediately triangulated that object with the inner Earth people who we're in contact with and have specific teams in there, and then us, the surface humanity. So it was this triangulation thing. And that object and the consciousnesses of it and associated or maybe in it, also reached way back in time, way back to the beginnings of humanity being seeded and developed and this planet. So, I didn't expand on that or get a ton of information, but that was the very first impression I got, was this triangulation. And it's even in the name, three,
Right.
so this galactic consciousness, the inner earth consciousness, and then us humanity's consciousness. So
That's fascinating.
Mm.
That's fascinating. Well, I haven't watched too many things, and of course, like you said, so many different perspectives. But some of the so they do spectrography, I guess it's called, where they use a certain kind of camera and it comes back with information about what the thing's made out of. So the actual composition of this thing is not like any comet we've ever known. Have you heard any of that kind of thing? Because usually it's one of the reasons comets have tails is because that's like vapor and gases that are coming off of it. Well, this thing doesn't have a tail, or we don't see it. And some of the information that they're getting from the instruments that are being pointed at it have it measuring some metals that they've never measured before out there, different combinations of metals. And whether or not this is true or not, one of the things that I heard from one of the reports was that some of the readings were showing that it was a type of metal. One of the components was a type of metal alloy that hasn't ever even been made on Earth, but quantum physicists have talked about making it in theory. Isn't that fascinating? Like something
Super.
that our people are like, sitting around and talking,
Yeah.
physics theory. They measured that out there. And then there was another thing that I find extraordinary, whether or not you believe it, is that you know how we've always sent out radio signals, right? I mean, from decades and decades ago, we've been beaming out radio signals on a pulse basis, basically Morse code, that tells who we are, right? Third planet from the sun. Here's a man. Here's a woman. Giving the basics of what Earth is, right? That message has been going out. It was also on the moon, explorations and voyages. It's sort of our attempt at trying to communicate with whoever might come across this kind of thing. So that is still going out, and they apparently pointed right at it and sent a specific sequence of pulses and beams. And the thing that I read, that I saw, it was a little video that came back as saying that the comet pulse has a pulse in it that doesn't match any other comet they've ever had, and that it returned that signal. Now, I don't know how a rock would do that,
Uh-huh.
but supposedly there's some people talking about that. Could somebody be just making that up and throwing that out there for us to create a fake alien invasion? I give that some possibility too, right? I'm sure there's people who want us to be terrified about this.
yeah.
I'm not terrified. Are you
No.
terrified?
I was gonna say I had my first connection with it, I guess, or where I like felt it. And I haven't even, because I've been hearing snippets here and there and whatnot, but I haven't even had the desire to really like try to connect with it until 3 mornings ago. And I woke up at 4 a.m., which has happened now 3 mornings consistently, can't go back to sleep. And so in this one, I just started to meditate, and that came into my awareness. And so I was like, oh, let's see if we can connect to it. Let's check into it. And it felt to me so much like a very familiar presence. And what the other interesting thing, and it just happened when we start talking about it, is I've had on the right side of my back, exactly in the middle, like right about at bra line, this super powerful pulsing. Like, when a muscle twitches, but it's more than that. And it's all the way on this side. And it's like, "Wah, wah, 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 wah." And it did that all 3 mornings after that. Tapped in the first time and felt that. It was just like a presence, super familiar. And then just as you start talking about it's doing it again. And I'm like, whoa, this is weird. Yeah. So,
That's
but that
amazing.
familiarity is, I don't think there's anything to fear. And I did see, because then I went looking on Facebook last night, and somebody had posted some images before they took all the images down, and NASA had a glitch and suddenly didn't have
Oh, sure.
any information. And it, like you were saying, a comet has a tail, and there was no tail, but it looked like super blurry, like a gray metallic thing, and then a break, and then a smaller one, and then a break, and then a smaller one. But all of them are really even defined in the blurriness, if that makes sense, which
Yeah.
I thought was very interesting.
There's all kinds of things that are fascinating about this. I think there's more to come. And what
What
I
one
really,
more thing One
please.
more thing that I found interesting is, I've heard a couple people talking about, well, if it truly was an interstellar object or spacecraft or something,
Mhm.
that they move so much faster, that they have such more technology, why would it be acting the way it's acting? And, I kind of think the opposite about it in terms of all the planetary bodies have specific configurations that benefit us energetically, right? The
Mhm.
configurations of everything in our system. And so that it could, it's also part of that. It's also on its trajectory and on its course. And each place that it is energetically impacting us, just like every planet does, every star does,
Mhm.
so I'm like, that's how I look at it.
Mhm. How could it not be impacting us when all the bodies do impact each other, planetary bodies?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot about it that's impacting us in a lot of different capacities. One of the other things I heard about it was that it actually is emitting light in front of itself,
Oh,
not from the sun. It's not reflecting. The light that's in front of it isn't a reflection from the sun. It's emitting some light. They're like, well, how's it doing that? So that's
Interesting.
interesting. Yeah, there's a few other things about it, and they're finding out more and more. And if I guess another really, I think we have some sort of satellite that's supposed to be taking pictures around Mars, but because they're not sharing those for some reason, and that's
Mm.
supposed to be they're sharing a little bit of the Hubble imagery, I guess, but it's much farther away, and Hubble's so much older. It's like an old digital camera that doesn't have the pixels that's available to this satellite that I believe is near Mars, and I think I just heard it just in passing somehow. Somebody was saying, well, maybe they're reseeding the planet Mars kind of the way Earth was seeded, right? With some of these elements that
Mhm.
are coming off of it, whether they be physical or energetic. So there's a lot of theories out there, really having us stretch our imaginations. I think it's
yeah.
quite wonderful,
The
actually.
name even stood out to me. And, kind of what I heard about the name is, obviously Atlas bore the world on his back. I is kind of the theme right now, the sovereignty of each of us, our human connecting to our I amness. And then, of course, three, the Trinity is so significant in so many ways,
Mhm.
at the very
Mhm.
most basic, it's physical, soul, and consciousness, so.
Well,
Ooh,
I've
I have
been
a
waiting.
question. Go
Oh,
ahead.
please! But I've been waiting to hear people say they visited it in a session, QHHT or BQH. I have not
You
heard
haven't.
anybody talk about that at all, and I haven't had opportunity. So, not
Yeah.
for me.
Maybe we should do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
That's an idea.
I have a question for you, Candace. I have noticed here we have not had any of the chemtrails or airplane tails in our sky for the last, I mean, I've been paying attention to this for the last couple of weeks. And this morning I heard an airplane, so I quick ran outside, right? And it was just a normal little, you could see the jet stream, but then it disappeared just as it went across. And literally there have been none of those cloud trails across our sky.
I haven't seen much of that at all. We have had some rainy weather, so I can't talk about those days. As a matter of fact, this whole year has been this has been I've lived in this house for 15 years. We've never had this much moisture the whole year and through all
Really?
summer. And oh, never. It didn't even come close how much rain we've gotten, how consistent. There's more coming in 2 days.
Wow.
It just, it's hardly ever dried out. I mean, you all have been here before, those
I
horse
know. I'm
paddocks.
like, what?
Those horse paddocks, most summers get very dry, and those things are just dirt by midsummer or whatever. They're still green as green can be. It's the craziest thing. We have had so much moisture, but no, the skies have been beautiful here. They've been clear. They've been that blue. They've been that blue that stops you in your tracks. My mother used to say, that's my Kansas blue sky. She would always claim it as her own. That's my Kansas blue sky. Just this beautiful, the skies are they're so unique everywhere. I've lived in New Mexico, in Texas. North Carolina has a particular blue sky as well. I have spent just a little time in Colorado, but it's been lovely when it hasn't been raining. I haven't seen any of that stuff here either, not for a while.
Very curious. You're right, though. I had not thought about that, but there hasn't been any. And there's usually a ton out here.
Every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right. Well, I want to know what else is going on with you guys. I know, Donna, you were starting to tell me about an interesting session, and I said, "Hold on, tell us during when we're recording. You had an interesting session lately. I guess QC that rolled into a BQH or something. So QC is Quantum Connect, and I'll let you take it from there."
Yeah, so this lady is 71 and this was her very first session, and she actually had trained in BQH and QC just for information. At this point, she doesn't plan to be a practitioner, but she just wanted to learn it really well. So I had the honor of guiding her first session for her, which was so fun. And she's total IT person, like her whole life in data systems and IT. And so she's very concerned, of course, about seeing or experiencing. And so we started off with just one of the QC games, and it was so fun because eyes wide open, just no trance game ended up being the very core of the entire session because we did that, and then we went and laid down and did the traditional BQH session. Straight BQH straight is how I like to say it. We didn't mix modalities on this one. And so and so, which I love, just a little plug. That's what BQH is all about, is so that we can mix modalities, which I love that. So anyway, this beautiful client, this lady, she was wanting to have one of those sessions where she just sees so much and experiences so much and travels so many places. No, it just kept coming back to the visuals that she received in the game, and all of the healing, all of the information, everything centered around this ginormous tree that showed up in her Quantum Connect game. I mean, everything, it just went back to that. And they literally wouldn't let her even see anything outside of what she saw and experienced in that starter game. So, she was able to hear and let the higher self, the soul, speak through her very easily. So that was wonderful. But literally the visuals and any of that other stuff, that was what they wanted her to focus on and return to again and again and take away from the whole session. So I just loved that. It taught her a lot, and it taught me a lot. Because otherwise, here's what I would have done. I would have, considered it just the game, just the little precursor, just the little primer, and then, kind of dismissed it a little bit. And instead they said, no, front and center, here's what we're starting with, and we're staying with this, and here's what's most important, and we're not going to let you dismiss this in any way, either one of you.
What I love so much about you telling that story is it demonstrates to the client you don't need this long and involved process.
Yeah.
It's there right for you. It's there right for you. And that I really am so thrilled to hear about your session.
And she was very concerned about not being able to be hypnotized or go into trance or go deep enough. So Exactly what you said. It was
Yeah.
perfect in every way because we gave you the most important, the most magical, the most healing part of the session. No trance.
Mhm. You know what else strikes me about that is it was through such a grounded, real physical image and experience, right? And that's what we keep coming back to. And as you're talking in our surrogate sessions, they've all been like that lately. They've been taking us for the clients to these very physical settings, these very grounded, what we would call 3D physical experiences, people, animals, nature.
Yeah, that's
Do you
true.
realize that?
Yeah.
And that also reflects back on what we were talking about earlier, Candace, of this.
Right.
That's what we're all being really pulled back to again and again. And yet, you also said this earlier, the magic is in that.
Yes.
So, what are we missing by wanting to go out to these fantastical places and, access our star ancestry, which has value and is important too? And yet, this is what's happening. So, it just makes me think of how do we, it's almost like those two worlds are merging. And I said this to Donna the other day. There's days where I feel like all the dimensions are just merging. And, I don't need to drop deep down in to access this other deeper state of being or my subconscious. It's like all there at the same time,
Yeah.
and so there's something with that. And I don't have words to
Mm.
put around all of it, but all of this is kind of pointing to that
I'm
something,
so,
whatever that
so
is.
glad you're talking about that. It's just so perfect because in some of the communications I've had with some practitioners offline, I'm finding myself over and over again with a visual image of, I mean, even, 15 years ago or so, we used to have like these lines of demarcation. This is your conscious mind. This is your subconscious. This is your higher self. This is your. And I have been saying for a long time that we kind of move back and forth like that. But I'm like, just even the lines of separation themselves, it's like a coloring book or whatever. We don't need the coloring book anymore. We don't need those outlines anymore. We can just freely move across and access what we need to and not have it be any big deal. And people liked knowing, right? We were in a place where we really wanted to know, this is the conscious mind saying that, this is the higher self saying that, this is my spirit guide saying that. There's a lot of these, the labels and the names and all of that stuff, and that is helpful in communication. It's helpful in learning. But then I always bring it back to the Seth books, right? All the Seth books end up with her finding out that it's just her coming back to her, talking to her, pretending to be, you know, a different version, and a male one at that, a very diametrically different, a diametrically opposed version of herself because she wouldn't believe herself. So she had to cloak herself in another persona to come back and talk to her so she would believe herself. So maybe it's some of that too. It's like, well, it depends on what perspective you're, but I need to know, was that my higher self? Was it? It's like, well,
Yeah.
Because it comes down to, can I trust that?
right.
How much can I trust that? How much can I trust this? How much can I trust the other?
Mhm.
And you're right. What it's all leading to is trusting ourselves and our own divinity and our own
Mhm.
I amness. Yeah.
Right.
Well, and accessing different levels of our consciousness or our soul. And I'm curious, Candace, another BQH practitioner recently asked me this question because I've been experiencing a lot of grief and a lot of people, so many people are moving through grief. And so this is ending in a question for you, but she said, do you think that grief is an altered state of consciousness? And because you go into these places where you really feel like you're floating through your life and you're honed in on this but not at all in touch with this, or you're accessing different sensory experience or different states of consciousness. And I was like, I absolutely do think so, because I've had experiences where I can say, I feel like I'm in a BQH session right now, or I feel like I've eaten some mushrooms and I'm on a plant journey, and I have not. but it's been, and stress and overwhelm and grief and all of these intense emotional states are also a way in. So I'm just curious if you had any experiences that you could, speak to that would touch into that for you, because I know you've been going through your own process around this.
Yeah. Oh, so much about water. So while you're talking, I saw versions of grief that I've experienced, right? So now my whole core family that I was born into is gone. I'm the last one. And I lost my younger brother first, and unexpectedly, and it was the shock of it all and everything. And as you were talking, I'm like, that grief was so huge and traumatic and devastating. It was like being thrown into cold water without having any warning whatsoever. It was just like, boom. And then as you were continuing to talk about grief in a form of consciousness, so I was instantly in that tumultuous, cold place and trying to catch my breath, and it was so big, and it was such a shock to the system, and it took a long time for my consciousness to come to grips with that. And then with both my mother and my father, it's like going into the same cold water, but I started out wading in, and I took a really long time to get to where I was fully immersed in it. And I had all this grief in this long trajectory of, I've been calling it pre-grief. I'm not sure I've ever heard anyone use that term before, but I've certainly been using it myself, because I knew that I was going through it with my dad, because it was very familiar. I did it with my mom too. And I do believe it's a different kind of consciousness, and I believe it affects everything around as well. The cat that I tried so hard not to have to deal with being pregnant again, gave birth to baby kittens just off the other side of the wall where my dad's room was. They shared a wall. And right as there was new life happening in this little room, dad was exiting life in this little room. And I was struck by that difference and going back and forth between the rooms, and the whole larger message of life going on and everything. And I remember you singing your papa out, and I didn't sing to my dad, but I thought a lot about you guys as daddy was in his final bit. But it was graceful and peaceful, and drawn out, and yet still there's a grief, but yes, it's different. But all kinds of things happened around that too. The nighthawks that showed up. We had dozens and I barely ever even seen a nighthawk before, and nighthawks showed up, as in the last couple days before daddy left, and I got video of it, and I looked into the spiritual meanings of it, which I won't try to completely remember the detailed versions of that now, but it's on my list to explore more fully. It was a big event, and a lot of people, yes, I think, are grieving some things, including the grief of watching our world change. Quite frankly, there's a lot going on in our culture that is both wonderful but also sad, because of the divisions. There's some stark divisions out there, and those divisions can be talked of in a intellectual level, but they affect families and friendships and moving through the world. And I think there's real grief in that for people. And earlier, it kind of comes back to this too, how challenging these times are. And my daughter looked at me and said, "Mom, I think just everybody," she said it over and over again, "everybody's just so tired. We're just so tired." So even though I'm getting enough sleep and I'm exercising and I'm doing those things, there is sort of I think there's some sort of energetic expenditure that we are making simply to exist here in the physical right now, because I think it's that challenging. I
Yes.
think we really are here during a very challenging time. And I don't care if anything's directly in front of you. If you are embodied as a human right now on the planet, you're having to endure a sort of energetic thing. Does that sound right to you too?
Sounds spot on. As
Yeah. Spot on, darling.
no, I love the words you put around that because you nailed it. That's exactly it. Everyone's exhausted, and I think a lot of people are trying to figure out why they are so exhausted because they can't put their finger on a reason why they should be as tired as they are.
Yeah. Well, and your sharing of the life in one room and death in the other, there's so much of that, and I see that. I've been in between two houses. I just finished building this beautiful house, and then I moved into the very old house built in 1895 in front of it. That's just full of death. Lots of things have been dead there for a really long time. And then there's this brand new, beautiful cottage that's light and airy and spacious. My friend just moved into it. And you know what's interesting about this is, so I've been feeling that contrast. I mean, literally walking out the back door and walking 12 feet across the little yard into the other,
Wow.
and like death, life, death, life. Well, she moved from another place where she had plants that were dying, and they're now sprouting new leaves and new flowers in mid-October. And in the death house, as I'm clearing out the death and still trying to get the old lady smell out of it, but that will work on that. But as I'm doing that, I'm watching new life walk in. And for every death I'm experiencing inside, because my whole life is flipped upside down because of this, there's a new life that comes in. So it's constant. And that's really brought up when you were sharing that of, I wonder if that's what we're all experiencing our version of. And that is exhausting, because if you think about that at a physical level, a mental level, an emotional level, an energetic level, all of it, that's all a whole lot of energy shifting.
Indeed, indeed. Well, what else do we have to catch up on? Oh, I have something.
Oh,
It's here in front of me. So, this book here, that is another anthology, a collection of stories called Heart Horse. Our good friend Allison Brown and Will Brown designed the cover, and he helped, design the inside as well. This book just won 2 awards. I'm not sure exactly who gave out the awards, but it won in 2 categories, which was animal and anthology, and so I'm really excited about it. So now there's two. I have 2 chapters in 2 books. Both of them are Allison's, edited by Allison's. But this one, Heart Horse, is available, and Still Awakening Stories is available in case anybody out there is interested. The information is below about the books, but I was really excited to hear about that because, this isn't really written by people in our community, our spiritual metaphysical community. It's just, horse people. Horse people came. But as I'm reading some of the stories, so many of their stories are magical, mystical, and metaphysical, and there's animal communication and all the stuff that we love, even from, people who just don't label themselves the same way we do. It's a really terrific book, so pick it up. You can find it on Amazon and with Dr. Allison Brown and Will Brown at Palm and Lotus. Yeah.
What I love about those books, Candace, is that it's such many consciousnesses, many people contributing to it. I mean, we're kind of used more to having one author or, co-authors at the most, but I just love it because there's so many people that are parts of those books and the energies of them and how it changes that.
It was a lot of fun to write about. I couldn't help but talk about past lives and stuff like that in mine because it just rolled right into it. But yeah, agreed. All
And
right. Well, what else?
congratulations.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations.
And congratulations, Allison and Will, for sure.
Yeah.
They worked very hard on that, and more to come too. Award-winning author Allison Brown. I'm sure she's got more projects in the works. They're going to Egypt.
Isn't that soon? Like really soon?
It's after Christmas.
Oh, it is.
Mhm.
Ah.
It's between Christmas and January, and I just saw Patricia Corey talk about, because I think she's there right now. I think. Anyway, I just heard her say, so that place where the statue of Sekhmet is, I'm not exactly sure. You know where that is.
Karnak.
Yeah.
So where is it exactly? So go ahead and tell our listeners where that is, so that we can speak about this. Where exactly is it?
It's at Karnak, it's called. And it's a big mecca. It's a huge complex,
Mhm.
property with a lot of different temples and buildings and some ruins. And it's not just, some of the temples like Luxor, or even Abydos. It's one temple, but Karnak is a lot of different things. And this Sekhmet statue is so special because it's one of the few things in Egypt at any of the sites that has not been moved from its original place. So this statue it was created to be where it is, and it has always been where it is. And you can feel the difference in this statue versus the other things that still have some energy in the other spots. But
They
yeah,
call it a living statue, and there's very few of them left, I think, that are in their original spots, right? But it's the very few, and this is the one. It's been gaining a lot of notice, I've noticed, since we were there in 2021, and we got to have one of the most powerful experiences of our lives. It's a tiny little temple too, and so many of them are huge, ginormous, and this one's just a small one room with a little tiny anteroom with just her. And her eyes, if you look at even the pictures of it, have you looked at pictures of that statue of her?
Only through you, if you've
Uh-huh.
shared anything.
Yeah. But I mean, her eyes are alive. And it's incredible how you could argue how they carved it. Is it imbued by a spirit? And person after person, we had personal examples of this and experiences with 5 other people in the room with us, where not a word was said for over an hour. And each one of us had a full telepathic conversation with this statue,
Wow.
where you would ask questions, she would answer you, and the eyes are looking at you. And you're looking into eyes. Now, you could, human, not human, it's just, it's really hard to describe. I've never had an experience like that before in my life or since. And
Fantastic.
not just us, but to be there to witness other people having it. And then there was 2 men in the group that was in there with us drawn. And both of them, as soon as they left, had their conversation with her and left, they just collapsed on the floor and were so emotional, overcome with emotions.
I think I
It
remember
changed their
that
life.
part of your story.
Yeah,
I
it
think I
was.
remember that part of your story. I really remember. Is this I believe this is where the light comes across her face and her eyes?
it can. So there is a little cutout in the roof where the light can come in, and so of course that light moves, and
Mhm.
it's really fun to see what it does in photos or
Uh-huh.
videos.
Well, I
Yeah.
think, and I may have this wrong because I just saw it in passing, but Patricia Corey was lamenting that something had been changed and they removed or built over or shored up whatever thing was able to put light on the statue. Isn't
Really?
that sad?
Yeah.
Well, she was devastated about it. Of course, she has a perspective. You definitely have a perspective of what that all. I've not been there, so
Mhm.
I don't have a sense of the logistics. Exactly how I would be there, but I wonder how much that light had to do with keeping the life going, and if somebody either wasn't thinking or was just really thinking
Mhm.
to remove that light. How how sad. She was very upset about it, I
Mhm.
guess.
There's so much magic there in Egypt still. I think that's why so many people are drawn to it. And it's fascinating that even within the groups that go, I guess like anything in life, different people are drawn to different things.
Yeah.
So it's that's fascinating to me, particularly about Egypt, of what a diverse and yet still incredibly powerful array of energies and consciousnesses that we all connect with in those experiences. I'm excited for them. I can't
I
wait to
know.
hear.
I can't wait to hear about Will and Allison's trip.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You know, it's funny. I've been such a homebody, of course, for so very long now. I mean, just the idea of like you and I were talking, we were talking about coming out to Colorado, you know, that'd be like a 3 hour flight, 2 2 hour flight. And I mean, to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't done it in so long. And now these people are just flying off to Egypt, just going over there to visit, and I'm like, ooh, Colorado, that'd be a big adventure for me. You know, I'm just now coming out of this world of being. I can go anywhere almost, and I don't have to ask too much permission. I still have animals to take care of, but I can come and go as I please, and I feel a little bit like a teenager. Remember how when you were a teenager and you could finally like go places and do things, even if you didn't have anything to do or anywhere to go, like you could.
Good.
I
Which is
feel
so
a little
fun.
bit like that. Yeah, a little bit.
You could, but it's also a little terrifying because you're like, do I know how to do this? What's going to happen?
Right?
Candace, we just found, so we've been on this kick since we were in Montana this last summer on finding sacred spots around us because they are
Mhm.
so very healing and free and usually deserted. And, you know, and so anyway, we found
Mhm.
on a hike that is about 2 miles in, and the drive to the trailhead is about 4 miles from my house. And it's on one part of Pikes Peak, one side of Pikes Peak. This big stone, it's probably what, 10 foot high, big
At
single
least.
stone, and it's shaped like a flame. And it's balanced on the stone beneath it is smaller and it's at a curve. And then here's this like flame stone that's balanced on
It's
this.
amazing.
And it's exactly lined up with north on the north-south axis with this point on Pikes Peak on the backside that's called
Sentinel.
Sentinel Point. Thank you. And there's a huge vortex that you can see, a visual vortex right beside that I think this rock is marking.
Mhm.
Um, and you know that because of the way the trees are all so twisted and twirled and the lightning strikes all around it, you know. And you can feel it when you go into the apex. It's kind of a channel that comes up the hill that's rock on both sides, and it comes to a V, which is what this stone is marking. It's not in the V, but it's right beside it.
Mhm.
And when you drop into that V, it does weird things to your belly. You really don't want to stay right at that point very long. But then when you're just a little bit, you know, just sitting a few feet away, then you can just feel the intense peace and healing properties of it. So yeah, we're
It's that
starting.
close to your
It's
home
that
and you just now
close.
found
Yeah.
it?
So when you come
Wow.
visit, we'll take you there.
Yeah. Well, because in Montana, you know, we
Yeah.
found 4 different dolmens, which is we call the dolmen when the rocks are like this with a cap.
Like Stonehenge.
And each one of these, you know, because they're usually in these big tangles of rocks, and you're like, is it natural? Is it man-made? Well, we took compass readings at each one of these dolmens, and every single one of them are facing 133 degrees. Every single one of them.
Yep, exactly.
133 degrees exactly.
So do
Yeah.
you know what 133 degrees signifies then?
It is the winter solstice and probably sunrise, but what I haven't figured out yet how to do is to go back in time because we'd like to date these things, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
to go back in time and look at exactly when is the winter solstice sun rising at 133 degrees, because right now it's close, but it's not that.
Mhm.
Or when maybe Orion or the Pleiades are rising at 130, you know, because then we could date those. But you can feel the healing, wonderful energy of these dolmens.
How fantastic. So
Yeah, well,
are you in the middle of writing about all this? Are you coming up with some new books?
We have some photos, and first of all, we just want to do some YouTubes about and show the photos and talk about our experiences and really talk about how people can begin to discover these spots in each of our areas because they're all over. And these are, you know, Earth's original hospitals. These are Spirit's original healers and, you know, consciousness helpers.
Mhm.
So,
And that's what's, tying it back to Egypt. That is what is drawing people. And there's so many vortexes there, and they have been mapped out and they're all marked and all of this. And so, or Stonehenge or some of the stone circles, but then they're everywhere. I mean, I guarantee there's some in Kansas.
I know there's some
One on your property.
there's some ancient Indian sites that I've been aching to go see. So maybe there's something around there. Hey, you know that healing spot near our creek back there? Well, we've had so many flash floods and so much water that the main tree that was right next to it, it went down. And I thought, oh, the whole thing might just go finally. Do you know it still hasn't gone? It's still rebuilding itself. You can still crawl underneath. There's a collection. It kind of looks like a little tent, a little place that I've been going to for 15 years. You just can't even believe that it keeps rebuilding itself. It looks like somebody's drug a bunch of sticks and kind of made a tent or a pyramid kind of shape out of it. And it just keeps morphing and rebuilding itself and somehow existing and marking that spot. So I think you're right. There are certain places of the planet, and then maybe somehow somebody puts a dolmen, near a spot like that, right? Like, well, we got to mark this spot now because it's just a pretty special place. But
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know how.
Almost
I don't
like
know.
a different language or communication of how they marked these places,
Yeah.
that
Oh,
we've forgotten.
fantastic.
But yes, we've been researching all of this is for the new series that we're working on. The Ancestor series is what we're calling it right now. So we're about to dive into that this winter, along with creating a new pilot class
Oh,
that
well,
we.
what might that be about?
Well, you were speaking of the BQH world evolving and changing and growing, and we've been experimenting with. I've been working with plant medicine for several years, and we began experimenting with it because I said, this is so similar to a BQH session. And so we started adding in low doses of psilocybin and using the BQH format. And it has just opened up a whole new exploration, really. And so I've been working with different psychologists and different groups that are doing group therapy for vets and people with, very big challenges. To facilitate these group healings because psychedelic medicine, plant assisted medicine is so huge right now. I've been attending psychedelic conferences all over the place, and it's really exciting what's happening in that. And what I'm finding is the tools that we learned from you and through BQH are the perfect tools to use in that field of the unknown where anything can happen. And it's we're hoping to build a bridge and offer something to the psychology world as far as tools to help them in this navigation of assisting people in finding their own inner healer and moving through those blocks and releasing those traumas and coming into wholeness. So we are,
Fantastic.
yeah, we're working with creating a course that will speak directly to that.
Fantastic.
where people will take the BQH online course and then as a baseline, and then come and attend a 4-day class, which we'll pilot in the spring, and then we'll see after that, when if we're going to open it up, if and when we're going to open it up to just anybody to come and then practice and learn how to apply those skills to plant journeys and working with plant medicines as a facilitator.
Fantastic. QC, Quantum Connect, is good for psychologists too.
Good.
No substances required. Just a different way of learning some deep insights from clients. I haven't really. I've from the beginning of creating and releasing it, I thought this is for absolutely anybody who does any kind of counseling. I don't know. I don't care if you're a school counselor or a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a psychotherapist. This has got to be helpful out there. But mostly we've had, quantum healers they already know about the value of this kind of exploration and see the value of a no trance version of it. But yeah, it's nice to think about communicating with that more conventional world, who are also expanding in the other ways. I love that, you know. Why not learn from everybody and across all realms of knowledge?
Yes, absolutely. And I love what you said around, QC is accessing that no plant required. And that's honestly where I have seen in these last several years of working with both separately and together, is it's really just another path that's bringing us to accessing our own greater wisdom, our own higher self, our own team, where I really fully believe that it's not going to be that long before these plant medicine assistants have done their job and are connecting us to our higher consciousness. Oh, yeah.
Candace, when you're ready, I would love to ask you about your chosen focuses right now, too.
Well,
Are you
so
are you
yes,
ready?
I am ready. You want to? Okay, so we're gonna just edit back in. Okay.
So, Candace, I would love to know, what are your chosen focuses right now? What's happening for you professionally?
Well, starting out, reconnection with all of you people who I used to connect with far more regularly. I want to get back into that, absolutely. But what I'm finding is I want to do a lot of cleaning up and sorting. I am in that place. I'm in that place in my world, in my home, cleaning up things that have had to be set aside, taking old things out that are no longer necessary. But I find that a great metaphor for exactly what's happening in professional life too, things that it occurs to me, we used to worry about different things doing this work. We used to focus on much different things. And when you look back at it, it's like, those were such minor things that we used to focus on. We used to talk about. I mean, do you remember how much time when we first started the BQH live class, how much we talked about this huge thing about doing sessions online? It was just this huge thing, and it was and there was this great contingent of people, and some of that thinking still exists, and that's okay. But it was so new, and it was so breaking such new ground, and it had so many pieces of mystery and import and all of that. And it's just not that big a deal. It's, so what I'm finding is so much of our work that's, we seem like these great big things about it. Some of that is shifting and changing. I really want to explore how the work that we do shifts as we as humans are coming into more maturity, but also again back in this really intense time, because I still believe that there's this bifurcation thing going on. I really do. This idea that some of us will step into this higher octave, and some of us still have a whole lot more to do, or even parts of us have so much more to do in this other one. I actually, even my dad leaving when he did, and he was such a 3D guy. I mean, he benefited from some of our work, shall we say, but he was such a 3D guy. It really makes me think that he took that to the nth degree. He took it to the almost to the end of this year, where again, like when we first started talking, we're coming to this place where it's such a significant year, and it's such a significant ending of the year, I think. And I think we all are going to look into the next phase, next spring and next summer in a way that we may not even be able to fathom right now. So how do you plan for that? How do you plan for that? I'm not sure I know how to plan for that, but I'm still I'm in the cleanup phase. So that cleanup phase is happening, online. It's happening with BQH class. We're reinvigorating the standard and the old offerings, and we're going to be offering new. I mean, I have had a self-healing class in the works for quite a while, and it got set on the back burner. but happily with some new tools, it's going to be completed so much easier and faster now. Thank you for that, right? Even we are redoing the entire BQH class. Now, what I mean by that is I'm going to be re-recording the videos, and we're going to update, but the information is going to stay the same. It's just going to be like a new edition, right? The edition needs to be new. The filming needs to be better. The lighting needs to be better. Some of the written information just needs to be updated and refreshed, but it remains the same. The core foundation of it remains the same. I love the idea of coming together in some new ways for smaller bits of time, for maybe some webinars that focus on specific things. You know, sometimes the work that we do is so filled with possibilities. An infinite number of things can happen, but sometimes, even just like in QC, if you stick to a single thing, you know, if you go, well, today I want to look at this or whatever. So I like the idea of exploring. Suddenly I'm thinking of somebody who's talking about how she really wants to start riding her horse at night more. You know, I mean, that's a way different thing about riding a horse than regularly riding a horse. So we're still going to be doing the work. We're just going to start looking at it different ways. I mean, a lot of that you could look at it through the plant medicine type. I mean, for me, I kind of like some of the day-to-day things. If I really stopped and sat down and wrote everything that I try to pay attention to in my day, just walking around the farm, watching how small pockets of energy affect other things that are going on. You know, how when this dog and this dog are tussling a little too close to this cat, how it affects her appetite or whatever. I mean, do you know what I'm saying? I'm watching these very, very small things. I had this garden spider. Of course, it's October, right? I had this garden spider, and she made this web, and she made it on like a Friday. And it was this beautiful web, and there was one tiny bug in it. It was this perfect web, and I'd go out and talk to her. It was on the house, but it was on our garbage dumpster, right? It was on the house, up along the rock wall and the garbage dumpster. And I'd come out and talk to her, and I'm like, we're going to have to be moving this when it comes Wednesday. You're good for now. You've got a few days, you know? And I come out every morning or multiple times a day, whatever I'm taking out to the garbage. And I'd have this conversation with the spider every day. And I'd say, well, 3 more days. Well, 2 more days. And, I know you can make your web again faster, but, I'm going to have to be hurting your creation here, in the next 2 days. And then I went out on a Tuesday. Remember, our trash day is Wednesday. I went out on a Tuesday with the garbage in the morning, and I didn't see the web anywhere. And I looked around, and then I looked up, and she just moved it up, right up along the house. And I'm like, well done.
Good job.
Well done, spider. I mean, and part of you wants to go, oh, come on, it's just a coincidence that she did that. Well, I don't think so. I really don't think so. And I think, now that's giving me goosebumps. That's the kind of magic we can have in our life,
Yes.
being 3D all the time. We don't have to make an appointment with anyone to step into the realm of incredible magic,
Yeah, love that. That's a synchronicity too. That's the 3rd time spiders and spider stories and communication has come up in the last 24 hours.
Well, it is that time of year.
It is.
It is.
But just the communication with them is what's so interesting, is how They really are sentient, conscious beings that we can communicate with.
They really
And
are.
that's a part of it too, of how all of this is coming together in the 3D.
I have I've talked about my hawks before.
Yeah.
There's they're actually gray and white hawks, which out here it's pretty normal to have the red tail hawks. You don't see these type of hawks, but for years and years now, there's been a pair that's nested in our valley. They're only here for part of the year. Some years they've raised young. Other years, there's been whole years I haven't seen them. But lately, they have, well, they revealed themselves to me, I don't know, several years ago as guides. They, all of a sudden showed up in a session I was receiving and said, "Oh yeah, we're guides for you," which of course was like, "Oh, well." And so just like 3 weeks ago, I haven't seen them this year except maybe a little tiny bit. They may have shown up really early, like February or early March, just for a blip. And then I haven't really seen them. Well, about 3 weeks ago, on the morning of a surrogate session, all of us, I mean, we're in here preparing for the session and I hear them. I hear them outside. Ah, it's the hawks. Well, I didn't see them. I didn't hear them again until the next week when I got up in the morning. A client was coming for an in-person session, and I woke up to the sound of the hawk. And not only the sound, but it was sitting on the very tippy top of the tree closest my bedroom window. So I got to go out and watch it and commune with it. And then they've been doing that. They've been vocal and showing up, always associated with session days, just within the last 3 weeks. And then this morning, it was sitting up there again on, I now call it its tree because it's sat on the top of this tree a lot lately. It's sitting there, and I had made a remark not too long ago that, I would really love a raven, one of those just really big, ginormous, because we've been doing a lot of witchy stuff. We'll tell you about the witchy stuff in a minute, but I'm like, I feel like I need a raven. Well, so this morning I'm sitting there having my morning tea and just kind of, looking at the hawk, like, oh, I'm so happy you're here. You're so beautiful. And this ginormous raven comes flying and perches on the tippy top of a tree not very far away. And it's the same size as the hawk. I mean, this hawk is huge. It's a big one. And the raven was huge. So that just was such a special gift.
The birds are so incredible, aren't they?
So Candace, you might find this fun. Our book club that's not really a book club at this point, we're not sure what we are. We're on our third or fourth identity crisis, but we all last Sunday dressed up like witches and did a coffee shop crawl on the Sunday morning. Full witch regalia. Coffee shop crawl.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Fantastic. How were you received?
Yes, that's an excellent question. Um, in
It varied from town to town.
in Woodland Park, our little hometown, I've lived, that's been my hometown for 30 years. And we started out at the Starbucks there, the Starbucks in Woodland Park, not even one of the other coffee shops that are sometimes more, populated by churchgoers or whatever. And people would not even meet my eyes. They would avert their gaze
They try to like look at us out of the corner of their.
and
Really?
avoid us physically.
How
Um,
many of there were you?
there was 5 of us.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. And I was shocked. I was not expecting that. But Woodland Park was the only place that happened. When we went down to Old Colorado City, which is part of Colorado Springs, it was the opposite.
Yeah.
It was a glorious day. People were sitting outside of all the coffee shops, and we would walk by, capes streaming, pointy hats pointed at the sun, giggling, of
So
course.
fun.
And and people would just light up. They just look, and
Yeah.
and just big smiles, big welcomes. So depended on the place.
That reminds me, I'm seeing a curl in the middle of my forehead. That always reminds me of my mother. That that poem. There was a girl who had a curl in the middle of her forehead. Um, that reminds me when I still had the office in Augusta. They have the Witches' Night Out, and it's for the businesses down there. They hand out candy, people are
Yeah.
welcome to dress up, and then it's an opportunity to meet the public and talk about your business and stuff like that. And my first year there, I'm like, well, that's great. I would love to do that. And I would put a table out, and they came by to, are you going to participate? I'm like, well, yeah, I thought I might. I'll put a table out. Maybe I'll have my, my cards, And they were like, oh, tarot cards. I'm like, oh no, just like some oracle cards, just some of these, and I showed them. I don't even know, Emoto's cards or some angelic cards or something like that. And it was fascinating. They all got really scared. They were like, you can't do that. And I'm like, an angel card reading, you know, to
Yeah.
pull an angel card. It was really strange because it was like, no, it's okay to dress up to be a pretend witch. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay to have knives and corpses and stuff around, Day of the Dead stuff. But if you put a table out and do angel card readings, well, that's just a bridge too far. You're going to scare people. And I just remember thinking, what? What's even going on here? It was really very, very strange. I mean, those were early years. That was probably 20, I don't know, 2014, 15, something like that. Yeah. But
Well, it's really
isn't that
interesting
weird?
how many people, it is weird. It's interesting how many people asked us, are you guys really witches?
Oh,
Like we got that constantly,
Mhm.
which I thought was so fascinating because, my mind goes, well, define that. What do you mean by
right.
that? You
That's
know,
right.
like you said, it's perfectly fine to dress up as these things.
Right.
Um, it
I
just
think
shows what's so deep in our psyches
I
around.
think culture says, for my best guess, if you're a real witch, you would deny that there's a Christ or a Christ consciousness or anything Christian, and you would worship Satan or worship. And then there's like the earth witches who are more, earth kind of uh, focused, right? The earth goddess kind of stuff, and they're
Mhm.
not as bad. I guess, I'm just talking about the people who have, I don't know, I guess that's a pretty shallow interpretation of how society might be looking at it, but I think it's pretty standard and pretty on point, I think.
The etymology of the word witch I found very interesting. It comes from Wicca or Witcha,
Right.
or that was male, and then it's A or E, Wicca or Wicce, so Witcha or Witch, however they pronounce the female one. And that originally meant sorcerer, so those who willed or use or tap into the power of source, a
Isn't that
sorcerer.
interesting? Isn't
Yeah.
that interesting? Well, I guess there's still folk who are a little leery of the kind of work we do because
Mhm.
um, they consider it messing in realms where you shouldn't. But I instantly, and I don't get into these kind of conversations a lot because there's typically no value to it. But it's like, well, when when the angel Gabriel came to Mary, wasn't what was going on there then, or what? I mean,
Yeah. Why is that acceptable?
right? I
To
mean,
have
like
visions and
and about the only thing that
prophecies.
I've come up with is again a very shallow and ridiculous. Well, that just happened a long time ago, and that was that one time, and that was the thing. And back then, it's just not now because now it's bad.
Yeah.
Like I don't quite get some of that.
Yeah.
Um,
I do think it's changing though. I mean, I would say we were generally really well received,
Yeah.
and that there was more comments of that connection to the earth magic and the earth connection and the reconnection with the earth and the elements and all of that, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. A fun ending to the last coffee shop we were at. I thought this was precious. We were walking out in a couple different groups, and there was these two blonde-haired college age girls sitting kind of in the window seat of this last coffee shop we were at. And as the last of us walked out the door, they said, "Someday I hope to be that free."
Oh, wow. That's almost sad. Wow.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
And
Oh,
beautiful.
yeah.
yeah. I mean, yes. But
Makes me want to do it again.
Yeah.
yeah, and then what's stopping you? I mean, I'd want to sit down and go,
Yeah,
wait a second, what is it about life that is keeping you from that?
right.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah. And also speaks to how valuable it is when we do choose to do something like that because it brings us joy or it's just plain fun. And how that's, being the change that we want to see
Yeah,
and how
absolutely.
important that is to put it out there anyway,
Yeah,
which is why
absolutely.
BQH is so important in this whole world we're in, really. I mean, at the heart of it, helping
Yeah,
us be free.
indeed, indeed. Well, thank you so much for spending all this time with me. My
Oh,
gosh, we have been
the proper
chatting
catch
for quite,
up.
yes, for quite a while. I mean, I'm having to do this with others of our friends too. I'm David Manning and I are going to get together. Priscilla Lewis. I want to. I
Yeah.
definitely want to touch bases with my besties. So, thanks for kicking all of that project off and talking about our upcoming projects, but especially our class that's coming up in
Yes.
2026. We want to mention that again. That'll be the BQH Immersion class. What is that? It is basically immersing yourself in BQH sessions. Exactly. So you've already gone through the class proper basics. It doesn't mean you've had to give or even get sessions, but you've been through the online class. You can show up to the in-person immersion class where we trade sessions and we go into deep explorations about all kinds of things, and always something fun happens, and usually every day, all the time. And the food the
That
food
food.
the food is fantastic, and the atmosphere is nice and welcoming and comfortable and full of pillows and blankets and warm lighting and cozy places to swap sessions with your fellow colleagues. And that will be May 31st to June 5th, 2026. And we're going to have all of that available for you on the website real soon. Don't go there just yet because we just locked in those dates like, like just a couple hours ago. So we got to
Y'all
get to
are
the
first to know.
yeah, we got to get to the website. Well, people have been asking, especially some of the people who signed up who are going to be here this month in October. When are you going to have that next class? So we do have the dates now, and we hope to see you there. These are small groups now, people, so you want to sign up early because we cap it at 10, isn't it? 10, 10, 12.
Yeah.
So it kind of
Ten and
depends
12.
on it
Yeah.
depends on a few different things, but small. It's not a giant group of people, and it's always perfect and wonderful. And we'll be dreaming about that as we move.
Mhm. I can't wait to see how it all unfolds. I learn and grow so much every time.
Me too. Me too.
Mhm.
And it'll be so different because I won't run home every time. I won't have to go. Gotta
Right.
go. The caregiver's off in just a little bit. I gotta go. I mean, I'll
Yeah.
still have to go feed horses and things like that, but it'll be a little different.
It
So
will.
You'll have more bandwidth than you have
I,
in a bit.
yeah, we all need a little more bandwidth. That's for sure. And again, thank you for being here. And so, for those of you out there who are interested in joining us at quantumhealers.com, you don't have to be BQH. You might have taken the QHHT course. You might just have taken Reiki, or maybe you're a tarot card reader or an energy reader of some kind. We support all of you in an open place of community, sharing ideas and feedback from your colleagues. And we have a directory, and we are collecting classes as well, including the BQH Immersion, other upcoming things, Quantum Connect. We are filling up our class page. in the next little while, especially now that I am a little more free than I have been in a number of years. So look to quantum healers to be a hopping place. Thanks for joining in. Like and subscribe and all that stuff, please, because the algorithm must be fed. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.